Wow. I'm floored. I'm floored. The Flesh Prevails by Fallujah. Now, I'm going to be candid. A couple years ago, there was a bit of a controversy that surrounded this band. I had posted something about it. It was not really in the best interest. It was not something that really was necessary. It didn't need to be done. I removed it out of respect. And I want to cover this band and I want to cover this album. Not just because it's been requested to me, but also because of the generalized interest that I've had ever since. Because that was just a bad scenario, a bad time, bad timing. Nothing was really constructive out of that. It's not like whenever you talk about something such as what we just spoke about on this channel about Davey Vanity, which is constructive considering here's a jackass that literally is breaking laws and destroying lives and helping instruct individuals how to do so as well. We definitely need to constructively say this guy's a fucking prick. But The Flesh Prevails by Fallujah. Man, have these guys really evolved. They really started off with maybe a little bit of a twinge of that old, bygone deathcore idea, back whenever it was first really starting to pick up its heels. And now they've really evolved their sound to really be a little bit more geared toward the traditional death metal department with some progression, with some technicality. Mending it all together, molding it all together, throwing it into a witch's brew, a melting pot, and really shitting gold in this variety. 9 tracks on this album, eclipses the 40-minute mark. I think it's about 41 to 42 minutes. And a couple of years ago, whenever Omnivium by Obscura came out, I believe I said something that you can always tell a good album by the opening track. If the opening track immediately hits you in a way that you've perhaps not been hit before, if it seems as though they're going out and doing something different, if they have that grandiose concept, that big idea, and they decide to do it first, and it immediately starts to have that tone to it, that tone of greatness to it, good things usually will follow. It's not a universal truth, but usually the greatest of things have to start from square one. Starlit Path is that great things moment. It is that opening, chord, that opening, movement that really sets the pace, the tone, and the overall feeling for the entire album. And it's a great one. It reminds me a lot of Omnivium. It reminds me a lot of that album, which was co-album of the year whenever it was released. Now, does Fallujah have perhaps the same future ahead of it? We won't know until December, but what I can say is that through these 9 tracks, through these 41 to 42 minutes, they've definitely dialed things up. They've definitely showcased their technical side, but they've also showcased that they have a little bit of restraint. They have the ability to actually restrain themselves from making each and every song all about the technicality, all about progression, all about the death metal even. There's atmosphere here. There is, some luscious layering that, sometimes layering can actually get bands into trouble, but it actually works here. It actually helps to build the overall, structure of the composition. It actually gives each composition a little bit extra. It actually boosts them up. This is something where the vocals are delivered very, very gruffly, but also have a fine, fine layer of real backing behind it. There's a lot of, charisma and a lot of confidence behind these vocals. And it's, delivered in such a direct fashion, and it molds so well with the music that is cascading around it, with the atmosphere that is perhaps twinkling around it, that it just overall comes off very, very nicely. The flow never feels disrupted. You never feel as though you can turn away. This is in fact an album where you feel like you have to engage it from the inception all the way to its death, to the very, very final moments of Chemical Cave, which is track number 9. I love the fact that they didn't feel the need. They didn't feel that necessity that a lot of technical bands really fall into the trap of just showcasing their instrumental prowess for 9 tracks. Show what it is to truly masturbate on a guitar and call it music and call it God player of technical death metal. So many times you see that. So many times that tends to be what the technical scene is all about. How quick you can play, how strange the time signatures are, how seamless you're able to make your transitions come off. It's whenever you're able to hone all of that and really, cycle that in with just good, strong songwriting that doesn't require all of that nonsense, that you really can truthfully make something that has that dynamisty, that has all of those calling cards of a good album. Because non-stop technicality is just going to sound eventually like a mess. And it by itself will become dull. That thing that wows so many people whenever they hear it for the first time, if they've heard it now for 8 straight songs, for maybe, 6 minutes a track, the idea is going to dull. That doesn't happen here. That does not happen on The Flesh Prevails, and I'm very happy to say that. Lots of compositional tact has been employed on this album. It's almost like the band went in and decided to really examine themselves, examine where they wanted to go, whom they wanted to be, and what they wanted that sound, the soundtrack, I guess, of who they are and what they want to be, what they want that to sound like. What the result was is a carefully crafted album that actually is able to push a lot of molds and actually shines this band as kind of one of the new torchbearers of this perhaps overpopulated subgenre of music. Now, does that mean anything to be a torchbearer of an overly populated subgenre? It actually kind of does. Especially if it's not something that you've done with your first album, something that you've evolved into. Mainly because it showcases that with a bit of tweaking and songwriting, this is a subgenre that can have a lot of viability and actually can produce a wave of tremendous albums similar to some of the first thrash albums, similar to the pantheon of classic death metal albums. That could happen if some tact would just be used. When it gets down to it, I highly recommend this album to anybody in the Cover Killer Nation. In fact, I recommend that you recommend this album to other people. This might be one that a lot don't really know about. It's maybe not a name that is on the tip of their tongue as many times as you may imagine. But I would give this album an 89 out of 100, which is a damn good score, especially whenever you consider the scores that we've given here thus far in 2014. Catapults it right into contendership. But what did you guys think about this album? What did you think about The Flesh Prevails by Fallujah? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.